Hi, it's Pete Moore and welcome to PCM Guns. In 2012, Mauser surprised us all by producing a rifle called the M12. I first saw it in 2013 at the Iowa show in Nuremberg, where Mauser were giving it the big one. And what it does, it sits in a bracket of price around about, back then, about £1,200-ish, which competed with some of the other guns at the time. And it offers a high quality detachable box magazine sporter. Initially there were just two models, a grade 1 wood and a synthetic stock they called the Extreme. And later on they offered a gun called the Impact. So both original guns are blued, so they were quite traditional looking. And the Impact was the brainchild of a guy called Robert Sajitz, who was then the CEO of Blaser UK, before it became Blaser Group later on. And he approached them and said, I want to sort of make a different version of the Impact, and the Impact name comes from having an impact on people. If you go into the average gun shop, and there's racks and racks of sporting rifles, and they all look pretty much the same. They're either black or they're brown wood and blacked, and though there's different models, if you want to look closely, you need something that steps off the shelf, and this does. What they did, it was a 20-inch barrel and steel action, steel barrel, long action, because all the M12s are long action, which means you can use the same size magazine just with fillers in the back to adjust for the cartridge length. And so what they did, they flew to the barrel and they cover all the metal parts in a material called Ilfalon, which is a corrosion resistance finish, and it's a sour thing, and it is an incredible coating. It just shrugs off everything, including salt water. It's bloody amazing. So the M12 range grew quite considerably, and there's thumbhole stocks and all sorts. I've tested most of them, and the Impact was well received at the price. The only problem was that back then they made it only with a 20-inch barrel, which was a bit short for certain calibers, you know, like your bigger 30-06, that sort of thing, and sort of the dreaded 243. And bang up to date, Frederick Hanna, who is the CEO of Blaser Group, which is the current name for what Blaser are doing, and he said, have you tested the Impact? So they haven't tested the Impact in 8 years, so they're still in the catalogue, and I think they've been a little bit forgotten, these things happen. So things just fall out of favour. It's not because the gun's bad, they just fall out of favour. I said, I'd love to. And he said, well, I'll send you a 30-06. And pleasingly, the 30-06 came with a 22-inch barrel. Okay, not ideal for that big old blaster or 270, but a lot better than 20 inches. And I think it's the better for it, I really do. So this is what I've got here, and it all came through. It's got a Minox scope on it. I've got a review of the scope, which is a super little 2.5 to 10 by 42. It's got the Frey and Derrick moderator on the end as such. So let's look at this, and in the light of modern rifles and modern calibers, see what we think. So the barrel is what I describe as light medium, fully fluted, and the flutes are quite deep, so I imagine that does take a bit of weight off, and also perhaps adds to rigidity a little bit. Threaded 15 by 1 is standard, and unusually the barrel is a push fit. What they do, they heat up the receiver till it's red hot. The barrel is pushed into a preset headspace, and then once it's cooled down, the receiver shrinks and grips the barrel chase that holds it firm. Then it's pinned in. Clever idea. I imagine they've done this because it's probably cheaper than cutting and threading both the barrel chase and the inside of the receiver. The stock is called the Extreme stock, and it's a heavy synthetic, tiny bit hollow at the back, but it's got a nicely shaped pistol grip, as you can see, tapered fore end. There's some cast in checkering or textured panels. The bolt has 6 locking lugs, and compared to the standard M12, the handle has been extended. The actual M12 has a brown ball end, this has a big teardrop knob on it. Safety is dead simple. It's a 3-position roller, so forward is fire, so you've got a red indicator there. Middle is safe with bolt operation, and rear is fully safe, so much like the Winchester and the Ruger. So it's a big old bolt, as you can see, less than 6 lugs. Unusually, the bolt face shows twin ejectors, which is, it really does power the brass out. You see when you shoot it, and that doubles reliability. And it's got quite a wide, big, fat extractor as well. As standard, the rifle comes with a Picatinny base, which is good, saves you money, and feed is from a 5-round synthetic magazine. So it's with a long action receiver only. The magazine is one size fits all. All they do is they put a filler block in the back. This is for 30-06, 270, that sort of thing, so it's full length. But with 308, which is a much shorter cartridge, literally they put a block in the back here, which allows the round to be presented more forward, so you can get away with a short action cartridge and a long action receiver. Trigger's really nice, big fat wide smooth blade. Comes, pull is, I reckon, about edging on 2 pounds. Nice and crisp, no problem at all. And really, that is pretty much the rifle. Just as an aside, Sauer make a rifle called the 101, which they launched around about the same time. And because they're all part of the Blaser Group and they piggyback off each other for ideas, the barrel receiver system, the magazine feed, is identical. They've just made literally the same action and barrel. The thing that really difference is this mechanical type safety here. The Sauer 101 has a sliding decocker, and also the stock is slightly different. There's a few things. So if you're a Sauer man, you'd buy a 101. If you're a Mauser man, you'd buy an M12. I picked 4 loads to the rifle, pretty much representing the higher end of 30-06. Weight-wise, I've got 2 from Gecko. The first is a 170 grain jacketed hollow point called the Plus, which is this one here. Next to it is the Express, which is a 165 grain ballistic tip. On the other side I have Hornaday's Precision Hunter, which is a 178 grain ballistic tip with the ELDX bullet, which has proved very popular and very effective. And then sort of almost old school is PPU, Privy Partisan, 180 grain jacketed soft tip. Nothing clever, nothing fancy, but I found often that it works very well. Okay, let's load up and do a bit of shooting. Magazine's lovely, double column box. Rounds clip in nice and easy, which is always a pleasure. Conversely, you can stick it in the gun and you can load through the top, though access is a tiny bit limited by the Picatinny rail, but you can still get your thumb in there quite easily, and the rounds just easily press down. There's a lot of box mag systems, you try to load from the top and they're a bugger. This is very, very smooth, which also means if you want to, you could put a 6th round in the gun. Entirely up to you. Okay, let's turn some live into empty. Put 5 rounds, 180 grain PPU. 30-06 is a funny old cartridge. It's a big cartridge in terms of what it puts out, but it's not as sharp as 308, which is, I find, quite jumpy and cracky. So that's one of the reasons I quite like it. Also, it puts out more energy and it allows you to hopefully step up if you want heavier bullets, 180, that sort of thing. I mean, you can get 180 grain 308, but really people tend to stick to the sort of the slightly lighter stuff, whereas you can push up with this, or you can go the other way and go for 150 grain load, which will be cracking on, probably touching 2.9, maybe some 2.850, 2.9, and it shoots flat, lots of energy, and I've used it very successfully on large deer in Europe. So it's the choice you take. So what do I think of the rifle? Well, I have no real complaints. So I'm a Mauser fan, got an MO3, and this is perhaps the rifle I would have bought if I hadn't had an MO3, because I just like it sort of a bit classic-y Mauser. I love the awful on finish, but I don't like the silver colour. It's just a little bit too contrasty for me. However, that's neither here nor there. That wouldn't stop me getting one. The Extreme stock, it's perhaps a little bit less dense than the MO3 stock, but the same principle. Nice shape to the pistol grip, medium forend, light free float in the barrel, easy access to the mags drop free very easily. One thing you can't do with this, you can't chuck a round in and just shut the bolt, because it tips forward and the tip of the bullet hits the side of the breech face. Some guns do, some guns don't, but so it's easy enough to clip it in, as I've just shown you. Trigger's good, nice and wide, smooth and curved, very comfortable. I haven't touched it, but it's tripping probably about 2 pounds. Like the fluting on the barrel, I think it does add something to the rifle. Length of pull's pretty good as it stands. Two things, I thought that the bolt might be a bit sticky, because the throw is very long and you've got a very long lever, and sometimes I've seen guns with long bolt levers that haven't perhaps been made as well as this. If you pull it too much, it can bind the action, but here I'm pulling that really hard and it's not binding the action. I think that the knob and the ends are perhaps a little bit too big. I'd have thought perhaps we heard a round ball, because it's quite a long bolt anyway without the knob on the end. Safety catch, you can't really knock it. 3 position, lock solid, firing pins back, locked out, cannot go bang. Safety in the middle, bolt operation, always a good thing. And then flick it forward to fire. Reasonably easy with the thumb. Not too bad in the shooting position. One thing I did notice, you perhaps heard it, I find when you release a safety like that, it's quite noisy. Imagine being up in a high seat or in a high, and a deer comes in and you sort of go click, and that click rings through the wood first thing in the morning. I'm not saying it would, but it could spook off. I think if I was using it, and then it will be a case of here's the deer, and I'll just ease it forward like so, so you don't get any noise. Price of these I've seen, because it's not a new model, I've seen prices from about $11.50 up to about $1400, depending on where you go and what you do. So if you want something like this, it's quite a good deal. You can go to a shop and say, okay, I want to buy this, and if it costs you $1100, $1200, that is almost the prices you were getting back in the sort of the middle 2000s. But really nothing to complain about. Just a really nice rifle that shoots pretty well, as we shall see. Right, scores on the doors. First up, Gecko Plus 170 grain jacketed hollow point, high 2734, low 2719, average 2725, standard deviation 7.6, sweet. Group 0.871, not too bad at all. Energy 2819, that's pretty chunky. Gecko Express 165 grain ballistic tip, high 2734, low 2688, average 2716. Oddly enough, it's slightly slower than the Plus. Standard deviation 17.1, so probably doubles the SD of the 170 grain. However, group is 0.607, which is what I always look in a gun. You know, give me energy, give me a group. If it shoots tighter, it suits me better, and this shoots the tightest of all. And 2716 energy, again, showing the difference between a 165 and a 170 grain bullet. But that, again, it's more than capable. Hornaday ELDX 178 grain, a bit surprised at this. High 2608, low 2546, average 2576, SD 31, highest so far. Group 1.2, thought it would be better than that. Energy 2633, again, thought it would be better than that. PPU 180 grain soft point, which is sort of the most garden variety of all. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not, it's not like all super sexy and high tech like some other rounds. High 2625, load 2596, average 2610, standard deviation 20.5, you beat the horn a day, group 1.364, energy 2738. You can't judge just by 4 loads, so don't take it that way. So I've shot the LDX and other 30-06 and it's shot much better, and yet it came sort of, you know, second to last sort of thing in group size. Cracking rifle, not a lot to whine about. Price wise, shop around, I think you could be impressed by what you get for what you pay. So if you like that, please tell your friends, please support my channel, and if you need to speak to me, it's the usual, it's pmoore.shootingsports@gmail.com, and as ever, have fun, shoot straight, be safe. I'll catch you later, guys.